I was a teenager, my life was the worst. Like, nothing ever happened the way I wanted it to. Everyone else's life was way better than mine. And so I spent my teenage years really disappointed. I cried a lot. It was like, I never get invited to hang out. My dad never takes me out for ice cream. Everyone else has nicer clothes than me. My family never goes on cool vacations. Will I ever get a girlfriend, find love, get married, have a family? Does anyone like me? And that was way back in the 90s. I mean, if social media existed back then, I would have been a train wreck. I mean, social media can be the best, but it can also be the worst. I mean, it's fun to check in, see what's happening, and laugh at a funny comment, but we also know there's a flip side to social media. Sometimes our friends post an awesome picture of themselves that just happens to make us look like a forest troll. You know, or sometimes we see one of those comments, you know, the ones that I'm talking about, the one that could be about you but may not be, and it drives us crazy all day wondering if that person was talking about us or not. I mean, one of the big side effects of social media is the fear of missing out. In fact, that fear has become so common, so much a part of our culture, that it actually has developed its own nickname, and of course, its own hashtag, FOMO. FOMO happens when you hear people talking about a concert that you couldn't afford to go to, or when you see posts from everybody hanging out, but you had homework. You see pics from a party that you weren't invited to, or you see posts from a cool trip that your parents wouldn't let you go on, or you see people having fun on a team when you didn't make the cut, or when you see two of your good friends sharing an inside joke and you realize that you're not on the inside, you're on the outside looking in, or when you hear about friends hanging out but you can't go because you have a big zit. You know, and if we're honest, when we experience these things and see these stories on people's Instagram and Snapchat feeds, there's something in us that thinks, that's what my story should look like. That should be me. That should be my life. Except there's a plot twist. It isn't. And in those moments, you get the feeling that your life doesn't measure up to the way that you think your friends, families, and weekends are supposed to look like. And because of that, you feel like you're missing out. Other people's lives look so fun online. And sometimes they even look fun in the real world too. I mean, no matter how awesome your life is, it's easy to feel like you're missing out on something. You feel like your friends, your house, your body, your vacation, or social life could be better. And maybe you've spent time thinking about what it would take to improve your situation. Maybe you think, if only I had a car. If only I looked differently. If only my family had more money. If only my family were better at being a family. If only I had made the team. If only I went to a different school. If only I were more popular, more athletic, more academic, or more, fill in the blank. In fact, that's what I want you guys to discuss right now. Take some time, pause the video, and I want you to answer the question, what is that blank for you? What is your if only? Now, what's crazy is, at some point in your life, you've probably had an if only wish that came true. You thought your life would be better if fill in the blank happened. And then it did. And maybe in the 6th grade, you really hoped that you could grow 2 inches taller, and you had a growth spurt, and you did grow 2 inches taller. Or maybe you hoped that you could one day get your braces off, and then you did. You wished you had your driver's license, then you got it. You know, there was something that you knew would make your life better if you could have it, and then you got the thing, and immediately your life was better, and ever since then you've been completely happy all the time. Okay, maybe that's not exactly how it turned out. Chances are it wasn't long before you had a new if only, a new wish that made you believe your life wasn't as awesome as it could be. And even if it isn't enough to make you completely miserable, this FOMO, this sense that things could be better, keeps you from enjoying your life now. For the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about the Apostle Paul. And in case you missed it, here's what you need to know. Number 1, Paul wrote more books in the New Testament than anyone else. Secondly, Paul wasn't always a Jesus follower, and a huge plot twist. He went from killing Christians to becoming a missionary and a follower of Jesus. And lastly, after becoming a Christian, Paul still experienced tough times. He was shipwrecked, beaten, and thrown in prison, just to name a few. I mean, if anyone had a reason to feel like he was missing out, it was Paul. And at the beginning of Paul's story, Paul, then called Saul, was a respected and even feared member of the Jewish community. He had a lot going for him. In almost every way, becoming a follower of Jesus changed that. Instead of being part of the community's elite, he was now seen as an outcast and common criminal. In fact, when we pick up Paul's story today, he's sitting in a Roman jail, writing a letter to his friends in a city called Philippi. In many ways, Paul's writing a thank you letter for the gifts that his friends had sent him. But toward the end, Paul says something to his friends that's surprising, maybe even shocking for someone who is most definitely missing out while in jail. He says this: "I'm not saying this because I'm in need, for I've learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength." Now, maybe you've heard that last verse before, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It's a verse that people quote all the time to motivate them to accomplish something. I mean, athletes write it on their eye black before games. Students say it in their heads right before a test, even if they didn't study. And while it's a true verse, when you look at all that Paul is saying, there's more to this message than just, you can do it, go team, like Paul's some kind of like cheerleader with pom-poms or something. Paul says that whether he's in prison or free, poor or rich, has a lot or a little, he has learned to be content in every situation. And maybe you don't use the word content a lot, but it just means to be satisfied or to be okay in your situation, whether or not you get what you want. Wouldn't that be nice? Does it feel like everything is going to be okay? Whether you're invited to the party or not, whether you climb the social ladder or not, whether you get a boyfriend or girlfriend or not, whether you make the team or not, whether you get a car or not, whether you get into your dream college or not. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to live with the sense that everything is going to be okay either way? That's what Paul is saying. And he isn't just talking about being okay when you miss out on a great party. Paul is saying that whether he has food to eat or not, he's okay. I mean, this is a man who's been hurt, threatened, is now writing from jail. And after all that, he tells his friends in Philippi, I found the secret to being content and okay in every situation, and you can too. And what is this secret? Paul says, I can do all this through him who gives me strength. See, Paul understood something that I think we often miss. Having met Jesus face to face, Paul understood that the plot twists and turns he experienced in life weren't just part of his story anymore. They were part of something much larger and more important, Jesus' story. And Jesus' story is the story of someone who loved Paul so much that even when Paul didn't deserve it, he was willing to die for Paul. That means that even when Paul's life didn't look like he thought it should, even when things were going really badly and far from what he wanted or expected, even when he felt like he was missing out, because of what Jesus did, Paul knew that God could be trusted. Jesus was willing to die for him, so Paul could trust him when life was hard. Jesus was willing to offer his life to prove his love, so Paul could have confidence in God looking out for his best interests. And knowing this and seeing God in this light gave Paul contentment. And that is the context to the famous I can do all things verse. Paul is saying that the secret to being okay or content in every situation is knowing that God can be trusted. It's knowing that he is in control and he's with you, even when your circumstances aren't great. Because even when you wish things were different, and even if it wasn't your first choice, you can get through it. Not because you are strong, but because he is strong and he's with you. Maybe you hear this and you're thinking, that's cool, glad it worked for Paul, but knowing God is with me doesn't exactly make me feel great about missing out. It doesn't make being grounded this weekend or not having a boyfriend any better. And I hear that. And this doesn't mean that you talk yourself out of feeling bad when an unexpected plot twist comes up. It doesn't mean that you act perfectly okay all the time, even when it feels like your world is falling apart. And it doesn't mean you refuse to feel sad or hurt or frustrated. That's not what this is about. This is about allowing yourself to feel the pain of missing out, but not living there. Contentment isn't about stifling your feelings. It's about making a decision to believe that your circumstances don't get the final word on who you are. You choose to focus on something else, on God. It's about refusing to allow your if only and I wish moments to keep you from enjoying life right now or in the future. So let me ask you a question. How would your life be different if you really believed deep down that everything will be okay, even if it doesn't feel okay now, that everything will be okay when it comes to your dating life, your social status, your money situation, your family situation, your future goals. Would you be less exhausted? Probably. Would there be less fighting and less tension at your house and with your family? Most likely. Would you feel less stressed and more relaxed? Definitely. And so here's a question I want you guys to discuss right now. How would your life be different if you really believed that everything will be okay when it comes to those topics? Dating, social life, money status, family situation, future goals. How would your life be different? So today I want to challenge you to take one step toward this kind of contentment. And it's an easy step. If you have your phone with you, I want you to take it out and type this phrase. Because Jesus is with me, I'll be okay either way. Because Jesus is with me, I'll be okay either way. If you don't have your phone with you, your leader will send you a message with that phrase on it. But make it your home screen. And this week, when you check your social media or you sit in class and you start to feel like you're missing out, I want you to look at this and remember that He's with you and you're going to be okay either way. And throughout the week, text this to other people in your small group to remind them of this message. Find a way to remind yourself and others that our contentment doesn't depend on our current situation. Like Paul, we can be confident that whether we get what we want or not, whether we're invited or not, whether things get better or not, because of God's strength and because He is with us, we'll be okay either way. Choosing to be content doesn't mean you pretend to be happy when you aren't. It doesn't mean you'll never experience FOMO or never experience actually missing out and then become disappointed. But it does mean that you don't have to stay stuck in that disappointment. It doesn't have to keep you miserable. You can choose to be content either way, not because of you, but because of Him. So, last thing for you guys to discuss is this. What are some strategic ways that you can stop letting the stress of FOMO ruin your life and instead that you can become content in every situation? Enjoy discussing that question.